Hello, I'm Owen. This is Charlie again. We're going to be talking about the implementation of the code for the website we've made, raspberrysky.com.
So we're using a lot of different technology to make raspberrysky.com work. We're using PHP for forms to get the receivers onto the site. We're using the Google Maps API to render the map and the planes onto the map. And then most of it's done with JavaScript code processing the data.
So the actual networking is quite complex. We have the web server in London, and then a client requests the web server and gives it the JavaScript code. The client then requests the data from all the Raspberry Pis stored on the website and puts it onto the map, and the actual client will calculate all the statistics rather than the web server because of JavaScript being a client-side language. So the Google Maps API is what we've used to actually create the map. The function initMap is what's used to initialize the map when the website loads onto the client's computer.
The receiver class is where a lot of the calculations are done. So for each URL that gets submitted to the website, a new receiver class is made. And in the receiver class, there's a list of all the planes, which are individual objects. And we use those planes to estimate the amount of CO2 and NO2 emitted since the client loaded the page. Also in the receiver class is the create table function that generates the HTML table for the stats of the planes. So populating the map is the main thing we need to do in the receiver class. We do this by making an AJAX request to each Raspberry Pi, for one Raspberry Pi per receiver class, and using this data we generate a list of plane objects, and that's the receiver class. Now the plane class contains details about a single plane. It contains positional data, so we can set the marker on the map, and a unique ID code to identify the plane. And the Google Maps marker is contained within the plane class, so we manipulate the plane class to manipulate the marker on the map.
It's also worth mentioning that this class is used quite a lot to write the table at the bottom of the page as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So updating the map in the receivers, this is the bit of the programming that I find the most challenging. So it's slightly convoluted logic, but what it does is it requests from the receiver a new AJAX request. Then it uses this AJAX request to go through the existing list of planes and mark which of them have changed, which are new, and which are no longer detected by the receiver. And then for each of these lists it creates, it either deletes them, creates a new marker, or updates the position of that plane to the new position in the new AJAX request.
So the front end was actually made by myself. I actually implemented mostly Bootstrap for the design of the website, but I've had to make my own IDs and classes in order to make the website as responsive as possible for our needs. So, for example, the map had to be made by me in order to put the map on the website instead of just have its logic. And we have the sections which are for the different columns and sort of tables that are on the website. So generating the tables, this data is pulled by the plane class, and this is actually in the receiver class. So every time the receiver class gets updated with a new AJAX request, this will run as well. And what it does is it deletes the table if it's already there, and then recreates it with the new fresh data, and you can actually see that it creates the element table with the ID of the receiver. So you have a table for each receiver on the website with its own aircraft that's being detected. This is so we can give people more of a accreditation for adding their receiver to the website. So we've actually had to use a bit of PHP to get our receivers. So after they've read the build guide that I wrote out, what they can do is they submit the right detail onto our website, and it actually uses a PHP submit function and a bit of JavaScript to make sure that it's actually valid, so it doesn't actually crash our website. So yeah, that's the PHP part.
So that's the basics of how we program the site. Obviously there's a lot more code, but here are some of the problems we encountered during the programming. So getting the markers on the map to dynamically rotate with the plane's heading was actually really difficult. Then learning the new technologies like the Google Maps API and the PHP forms caused some issues. And networking with JavaScript is not the smoothest thing.
And also, a funny thing to point out is that Charlie spelt receiver wrong in the variables, so therefore when I started coming along and coding and typing it in right, it had a few problems. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Goodbye.